Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. If it's Thursday, that can mean only one thing. 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, joins us. Steve, how goes it?
Good morning, Daniel. It's going well. Excited for the holiday season around here as I have a 6 and 3-year-old. So energy is high, anticipation, a lot of anticipation around here.
It is a wonderful time to have small children. Is it a wonderful time to be a Buckeyes fan? We're going to find out. It does appear now that Ohio State will play Michigan State on Saturday for game number 5. However, you may have heard Michigan is having COVID problems. Their game against Maryland this weekend has been canceled, and many believe the game next weekend will be canceled, which would bring Ohio State in at 5 games, fewer than the 6 needed to advance to the Big Ten championship game. Do you think the Big Ten, should this take place, will alter that rule, as Barry Alvarez hinted at?
I'm all for moving the goal line to get the best result possible. If it's an arbitrary situation, which I think this is, so I'm good with it. I'd like to see the best 2 teams in the Big Ten championship, and Ohio State, I think, has proven that they're one of those teams. But at the end of the day, if Ohio State's allowed to play in the college football playoff, the Big Ten is just a smaller trophy that you're shooting for anyway.
How many games on the Steve Wiltfong chart would Ohio State need to play to be considered for the college football playoff?
Well, I guess I got to say at least 5, right? Because they're going to play 5. I'd put them in. I'd put them in now. I mean, I'd like to see Ohio State play in that game right now. And look, I'm the guy that gets chastised for saying, all things even, take the team with the most NFL talent. I even had who's that old Fox guy who does the games on Fox, even got in my mentions and tried to argue with me about it. Like, when I'm like, all things even for the college football playoff, take the team that has the most NFL talent, because my opinion is that's the team that'll probably be the most competitive in that game. So that applies for Ohio State here in a lesser degree.
Yeah, I mentioned Barry Alvarez, who's come out and say we need to preserve the ability to get a team into the college football playoff. That's not because he's an Ohio State fan, people. It's because the Big Ten shares and the financial windfall that comes with being in the college football playoff. So from what you've seen, you think Ohio State currently is still one of the 4 best teams in the country?
Well, I mean, you could obviously make an argument that Texas A&M and Florida could beat them, but yeah, I still like Ohio State in that top 4 right now. The thing is Ohio State hasn't played as many games to get to hit their stride. You know what I mean? I know they came out in some areas this year already going 120 miles an hour, but their defense isn't playing championship level, but neither was Alabama's early on in the season. You know what I mean? Texas A&M's offense wasn't going the way it's going now early in the season. And so I think that you're always trying to play your best ball at the end of the year, and you need games and practices to do that. And so Ohio State wasn't a finished product of what we've seen on the field so far, but that's obvious. But from a talent standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, I think that they're one of the top 4 teams, and would love to see them in there at the end. And from a talent standpoint, they'll be able to go toe-to-toe with whoever they play. But I don't know if they're going to be as seasoned as some of those teams that they'll meet on the other side. I mean, Notre Dame's going to play 10 games or 11 games by that point. So obviously same with Clemson if they split them. And the SEC, they played basically a full load, and that's a pretty damn competitive league. So, Ohio State's not going to have the same kind of seasoning, so Ryan Day and his staff will have to figure it out under the circumstances to have their team ready to go when their number's called in a game like that.
I agree with that on some level, but the fact they won't be taking as many hits, there's a chance you're going to be in that game with 3 or 4 guys who would have been injured otherwise.
Make a good point. The beauty of the college football playoff is it was normally a few weeks from after those conference championship games. So all your bumps and bruises could be healed by then. But obviously the schedule is going a little bit later this year with COVID as well.
It's definitely screwy, and I understand the rationale for people that Ohio State hasn't played the requisite number of games. But the goal is to get the 4 best teams in there. If they were playing for your life tomorrow, Ohio State would be one of the 4 teams in there, so they got to go.
100%.
We're going to come back, talk some Cruton. All right, we are back. Earlier in the week, I discussed on the BM5 Jaheim Singletary with Dwayne. He is a Florida corner of the 5-star nature class of 2022. The original vibe was that he may not be that much in the mix for the Buckeyes. Good news is the original news may not be the right news. Go ahead.
Well, as soon as he got the offer, we were reported that Ohio State was in great position for him. It was the offer that he was waiting for that he didn't have. Ohio State instantly shoots into the top group with Florida and Clemson. Those are the 3 I'm looking at. And Ohio State has a great shot to land this kid. And here they've been talking to Ohio State heavy over the last few weeks. Did a FaceTime call with Coach Combs, Coach Day, and Coach Alford a week ago. Coach Alford, you talk to people in camp, they tell you what a great dude he is. Ohio State's got a great shot to land this young man, and he's announcing his decision on January 2nd, and I don't have a crystal ball in. This is one where before Ohio State offered, you probably would have looked at Florida and said the Gators are going to be tough to beat. Ohio State's right there in the middle of this one, and Clemson being a dark horse.
You have put forth a crystal ball for Texas wide receiver Armani Winfield. How confident are you on your meter there?
Well, I feel really good about Ohio State's position for him. When he dropped his top schools last month, Ohio State was the school that he said he was most familiar with, and obviously has a great relationship with Heartline, and I think with several of their commits as well, and so that one seems to be trending well for Ohio State. And another receiver that I'm going to join Bill Kierlick on for a 24/7 Sports Crystal Ball forecast is Kyon Graves. He's a receiver from Chandler, Arizona, currently committed to Arizona Wildcats. I think he wants to get out and visit Ohio State before doing something. But everything I'm hearing alongside what Bill's already reported is that Ohio State's a team to beat for Graves as well.
All right, let's finish with this name. It would not be the BM5 if we did not discuss wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, but there actually is some news. He is going to be taking the long-awaited trip to Oklahoma this weekend. Put that in context of his recruitment and maybe go into a little bit of detail of what a visit even means these days.
Well, it's a box checked for him on his list as he tries to get to a college decision. He wanted to visit Oklahoma and look at it as best as he could in person before making his decision. And he had never been there. He's been to Ohio State twice. He's got a great relationship with the Oklahoma staff and a lot of their commits. Now, as you all know, you can't meet with college coaches, or they can't provide you tickets to the game or anything like that because we're in an NCAA recruiting dead period. But he is going to be able to be in Norman and soak up a game week atmosphere. He's going to get a chance to spend some time with a lot of Oklahoma commits and their top targets. And so he is going to get a sense of what that community is like on game day and get a feel for some of the guys that he could potentially be playing with in person and not just beyond a group text.
What's your overall vibe? You might as well weigh in.
I mean, I think that Ohio State has reason to feel good going into the trip, but if you're Oklahoma, you definitely feel good about your chance to make a move.
We will check in on Emeka after the weekend. Hopefully we are headed for 2 big-time Washington Staters joining the Buckeyes. We appreciate Steve stopping by. Have a good one, Bucknutters.
Take care, y'all. See you on the front row.